Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story we are tracking for you. The President of the United States has commenced his ambitious Democracy Summit. It's a two-day-long virtual affair with leaders from over 100 democracies logging in for their speeches. On day one of the summit, U.S. President Joe Biden called on countries to make concrete commitments to reaffirm their democratic values.
Today, I'm proud to launch the Presidential Initiative for Democratic Renewal, which will focus efforts across our diplomacy and foreign assistance programs to bolster democratic resilience and human rights and globally. Working with our Congress, we're planning to commit as much as $224 million in the next year to shore up transparent and accountable governance.
There are three major themes of Biden's first Democracy Summit. That is to have a shared commitment to make democracy better. Secondly, to share ideas and make concrete commitments. And lastly, to fight corruption and promote human rights. A total of 100 countries have been invited to the summit, which includes all civil society actors and members of various parliaments. French President Emmanuel Macron said that there is a dire need to have open debates. He gave the example of Afghanistan, citing how there is still a major challenge that we as a society face.
When I see the resistance of our democracies to this pandemic, and when I see the autocratic regimes, I see the difference. We have open science, we have open debates on sciences, and all these choices allow us to produce better. And we continue to live through challenging times, to experience geopolitical tensions that challenge our values. The Afghanistan challenge and the humanitarian disaster that came with it show the challenges that we face and also the solidarity that most of us are demonstrating by giving asylum to Afghans.
Prime Minister of Belgium, Alexander De Croo, said that liberal democracy is all about strong leadership. He further emphasized on how a democracy should protect its minorities.
Liberal democracy is not about having a strong leader. It is about strong leadership. It is my deep conviction that strong leadership is based on diversity and on inclusion. Liberal democracy is as much about protecting minorities, protecting diversity, as it is about the power of the majority. It is this fine balance that makes it a quest, a never-ending battle. It is a system based on seeking compromise and consensus, a system that gives nuanced answers to complex issues.
With the rallying cry to improve the lives of people, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen asserted on how democracies should consistently work towards improving the lives of people.
We know how painful it is when a small group takes unlimited power and imposes a single vision on all of society. We saw it after the Second World War. And we know it can happen again. And the most fertile ground for this is where targeted disinformation skews the way we see democracy and perceive the world, or where people feel that democracy does not work for them. So together, the world's democracies, with all our flaws and challenges, must show that democracy can deliver to improve people's lives and to tackle the biggest global challenges we face. This is what the European Commission is committed to doing. It is why we have put forward measures to help protect people online from illegal content, hidden political advertisement, or disinformation. It is why we are proposing to add hate speech and hate crime to the list of crimes in our treaties.
This summit has been billed as a rallying call for human rights and liberty, especially after the West's back-to-back defeats, first in Afghanistan, then with Iran over nuclear talks, and Russia over Ukraine. There's a long list of guest list and on-air appearances with civil society groups, activists, and journalists. The guest list also features Taiwan. Not surprisingly, the biggest outrage against the summit has come from this exclusive targets Russia and China. Now, the two ambassadors to Washington have even penned a joint article denouncing the event as a product of Cold War thinking. China has even gone on to the length of calling itself a democracy. I beg your pardon, a democracy that works. Now, China has described how democracy and dictatorship coexists and skips concepts like media freedom and judicial independence. Meanwhile, the summit is likely to see commitments which will later be followed by a year of consultation, coordination, and delivery. Now, for more on this, our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, is joining us live from New York. Good evening to you, Susan. Now, what is the objective for the U.S.? What is President Joe Biden trying to achieve from this summit?
Well, you know, Alison, as you described really in great detail, President Biden, this has been really a cornerstone of his administration and his foreign policy is to bring countries together, to hold summits like these, to say that Western liberal democracy is the path forward against authoritarian regimes, and this summit really is in line with that, with a gathering of these countries together. A lot of jargon's being used, but also moving perhaps in the right direction when it comes to the goals and achievements. After all, who doesn't want free and fair elections in their country? And moving forward regarding human rights issues and combating corruption and combating authoritarianism and whatnot. If this two-day summit does indeed move in the path forward and there is some sort of consensus, then really it does send a message that there is some sort of unity between these countries. But if it sort of goes astray, then it may sort of prove to be divisive, and perhaps the countries that are targeted towards, like Russia and China, may be able to take advantage of summits like these. But I think it's also important to note that perhaps something that President Biden might be able to face some criticism for here in the United States is the fact that he brought a little bit of domestic politics into his introductory remarks. He said we're talking about the summit of democracy at a time when his administration himself is facing his own battles with the passage of voting rights legislation at home, and alluded to the United States' own challenges in its domestic institutions and traditions. And I think on both sides of the aisle, if you really talk to anyone here in the United States, the majority will agree with you that that's not the case. The United States continues to uphold its liberal democratic values, and its institutions are very well in place. So that was a little bit of a play on domestic policies on the part of the Biden administration and President Biden himself. But moving forward so far, it's been getting a lot of coverage here in the United States and around the world, and it's been really a thorn in the side of China as well, with the response that it's been getting.
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you very much for bringing us all the latest details on that Summit for Democracy.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.